right, and we are back for another episode of the Huge Boob Corner, and today my guest is the beautiful Arielle, the Reverend Arielle Aquinas.
Yeah, that's
so. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, and I do got to say, I know you talked about that. You've already talked about this. I just have to say, I would like to see more busty reverends out there. I just that's just me.
Well, we're out there. It's just usually we got robes.
Yeah, that makes it harder.
Covering up the huge honkers.
It makes it harder to appreciate it.
I know that they're in there.
They're there. Okay. So, well, again, I'm really happy that you decided to come to the show, and we are here specifically because you have a very special anniversary coming up.
I do. And shocking to everyone, myself included.
Yeah.
But in just a few days, I will be 1 year celibate.
Celibate. And this is something that just happened. Like, you didn't plan for this.
I did not plan for it. And it's so funny because ever since I have been open about it, which was basically once I realized that it was going to happen, everyone's like, oh, that's so cool. Congratulations. You know, like, wow, you have a lot of willpower. I'm like, I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't set out to be celibate for a year. It just sort of happened that way.
And is that something that now that you've reached that, like, how does that, what does that make you think about in terms of, looking back without having it, like, and that's no sexual activity. That's no sex, no masturbation, nothing.
No, like not even, I think I made out with a girl in October at a Halloween party. And I think that was about it. Yeah, there hasn't been anything, but I will say it has shown me that I can do anything, and I have no excuse not to, pursue anything or give up anything that I need to, because apparently I can do it. Because if you would have told me a year ago that I would go a year without sex, I would not have believed you.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, has that changed, like, has that changed anything for you, like, in terms of your mental state, has not having sex made you feel different in any way?
I'm weirdly more zen. I feel like that's such a stereotype. And it also could be because my life is going through a lot of other changes as well. And so I don't know if it's a combination of everything or, specific to being celibate, but it's something is working.
Sure.
And so I am of the mind that, when you're healing or you're recovering, try anything you can and see what works. I mean, if it doesn't work, that's too bad. But if it does, excellent. At least you've got more coping skills in your belt.
Sure.
And, so this all, it comes back to, I had things that I was trying to heal from and recover from and grieve. And so the celibacy just sort of sprang out of that, but it was not intentional.
Well, and was there a point you started to realize that being celibate was helping you?
No, it was mostly a kind of bane of my existence for a long time.
Okay, so it was
because it was, like I said, I didn't plan on it. And so I kept being like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? Maybe at this point, maybe at this point. And then the panic setting in of, oh my God, like I might not get to for 6 months. I might not get to for now a year. Oh,
yeah.
No. And, now at the point, what if it's longer than a year? Oh, no. But at the same time, once it got past a certain point and I knew inevitably it was going to be the year, then I sort of embraced it and I was like, okay, this is what's happening. This is what's happened. And so let's find a way. How are we going to move through this now that we've gotten to this place, this clean slate? I'm a virgin again. So, where is this going to lead and what can we do? And so, I guess we can talk a little bit about that too. What's going to happen going forward.
So so celibacy is not going to be a permanent thing for you. You think eventually it'll come to an end, or you
Lord, I hope so. I hope so. I was always a sexual person, and that's why I was in the porn industry. I had sex for a living up until just, very recently. And I never saw myself not having sex. I'd always,
in any capacity.
Even before I was in the porn industry, I was a very sexual person. I was, multiple times a day kind of gal and very kinky and
on and off camera?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
There's stuff that I've done off camera that, I've never even done on camera.
Okay.
And, because sometimes you just need it just for you.
Sure.
But I was always very sexual. It was a big part of my personality. I'm a part of the bimbo lifestyle, which is a 24/7 fetish lifestyle that's built around being, a human sex object.
Yeah.
And so I've also had to navigate, okay, well, being a sexual person was so much a part of my personality and my identity. How do I navigate the world? What's my personality now? And how do other people interact with me now, especially people who worked with me in the porn industry and knew me only in a sexual capacity?
Yeah.
And now I have to be like, oh, I'm not her anymore. Sorry, that's not me. And especially in the fetish world. Leading back to, some other things that I'm recovering from, they expect me, we've always interacted in this way. We've always been kinky. And very specifically, like people coming up and grabbing me by the throat.
Oh, okay.
Back in the day would have been super hot. Nowadays, it makes me panic. But I'm even though I'm such an open person, I'm really not very open about my private life.
Sure.
And about things that have happened. And so hence we come to this podcast where I think I'm in a place where I probably should finally talk about things and kind of explain what happened and where I went and what's going on and how we ended up here a year later, celibate.
Well, I'm really grateful and humbled and honored that you were able to be on the show to coincide with this moment, so that it can be a moment for you to open up. And
when I got your email, I was like, what lucky timing.
Yeah. So have you started to discover things about yourself being celibate that you didn't realize was there, or just in terms of, because you said your identity was so wrapped up in in being sexual for such a long time, and now that that's not there anymore, do you think that there are things about you now that you didn't really know about yourself before, or is it just kind of just something about you that's not there anymore?
It feels like something about myself is missing.
Okay.
Like I lost a piece of myself, which is super disconcerting. But also I got sober this year too.
Oh, okay. Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. And that was extremely hard and something I never thought would be possible either. But through being celibate, I was like, oh, if I can give up sex, I can give up anything.
Other things,
I can give up drinking. And so I've been telling people I'm just living the celibate, sober monk life this year. And
the reverend life, as it was meant to be.
Very authentically reverend life. And so I'm at home a lot more, but I am crafting more. I garden more. I feel like I have more time to do hobbies. I read like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
And I read 5 books at a time. I just
wow.
I can't get enough, which is so funny for being a bimbo and being a porn star.
Yeah.
And people are like, they think you're stupid and how dare you read. People are more gassed that I read than they are that I'm celibate. They're like, what? But I do. I read constantly. And
what is it that you like to read?
I read a lot of everything. And I try to, because I'm reading so much, break out of what I would typically read and try and read different sort of things. Like my mom reads a lot of autobiography, celebrity autobiographies.
Sure.
So I've read a bunch of celebrity autobiographies this year because she keeps recommending books to me. We have our own private book club.
Nice.
And, self-help books for a long time. It was all self-help. And then my secret, my guilty pleasure, which is the paranormal romance, vampire romance.
Okay.
And stuff like that. And I even... I'm ashamed to say, read all the 50 Shades of Grey books between this year and last year, because there's 6 of them.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought there was only the 3. Apparently there's more.
Yeah.
And
well, I'll be curious to get your impressions then, because I've heard from people in, like the fetish kink community have some thoughts.
And I was one of those people. I was one of those people for years. And that's kind of why I read them, because I was like, well, I've hated these books for so long and I've spoken out about them for so long.
Yeah.
I might as well see what I'm so mad about.
Sure.
And I mean, they weren't great. The later half of the books, the ones that are written from like the guy's point of view, are much better.
Interesting.
Same with Twilight. But because I guess she had more practice by then.
But yeah.
But the original books weren't great, but it made me feel good, because I was like, if she could publish this, I could write a book.
Yeah, right.
If this is what flies, I could write a book.
Yeah.
So it was hopeful in some way.
Well, didn't 50 Shades start out as fan fiction for Twilight?
Yes.
Like it originated as that.
Yep.
Then transformed into what it became.
And I also very much believe that it's a big ripoff of the movie Secretary.
Yeah, with James Spader and
playing
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Christian, or not Christian, E. Edward Grey.
Okay.
So he's Mr. Grey.
Yeah.
And, it's...
Spader really kind of specialized in those roles. I don't know if you've seen his other films like Sex, Lies, and Videotape or Crash. Like, he's done these really interesting roles. Like, he kind of cornered the market where... Because it's like, you look at someone like a Jamie Dornan, he was a really attractive man. And of course, like, obviously his attractiveness is something that draws you in. But James Spader always had so much, I think, because I don't want to say he's unattractive, but he was just, he looked like a more regular person.
But he's not traditionally attractive. Well, him and Maggie Gyllenhaal both.
Both, yeah.
They're so incredibly sexy in that movie.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't normally think of, when I'm casting a sexy actor, they wouldn't be my first pick. And it's so funny, because I'm reading a Sylvia Plath book that's narrated by Maggie Gyllenhaal right now.
Okay.
And it makes me so horny, because all I can picture is Lee from Secretary reading the
character. Yeah. I wonder if she gets people that come up to her and be like, they just look at her because they've seen her in Secretary and they're just like, even though the movie came out now like 21 years ago. So, which is crazy to think. But, so.
But back, circle back around. Sorry. So I think maybe I should start from the beginning.
Sure.
I suppose.
Yeah.
To make everything make sense.
Okay.
So back from like August 2019 to April 2020, I was in a very, very domestically abusive situation. It didn't start out that way.
Yeah.
It started out great. I mean, there were red flags, but by that time, my dating life had been so awful. I was just looking for anybody.
Yeah.
And this person right away, was, oh yeah, I want you to be my girlfriend and I want to be serious with you and I love you, which is rare, because being in the adult industry and being polyamorous and stuff like that, my dating pool is actually very small. People like the idea of having sex with me, but building a relationship and building a life is
That's harder for them to...
It's harder to find.
Yeah.
And so after, that sort of rejection so long of being attached to people who were like, oh, yeah, I'm going to date you and all my friends know you and my family knows you and we're going on vacation, but you're not my girlfriend. It kind of wears on you. So you meet this person who says all the right things and, wants to show me off and, is proud to be with me. And... it feels so good, and it's like you want to keep basking in the glow of that love.
Yeah, that attention, that adoration, and
security.
Yeah.
And so then when the red flags start popping up, you ignore something here, you ignore something there, you overlook it, you think, well, it's not that bad, and, okay, he does this, but at least he, does this.
Yeah.
And what that turns into is being literally held captive and tortured for days on end.
Yeah.
And he was really, really sick.
Mm-hmm.
And I was brainwashed to the point where I really thought that I deserved everything that he did.
Wow.
And that if I said anything or did anything, I was ungrateful and disloyal. And who would believe me anyway, because I am just this whore. And he's an upstanding citizen. And he, and really had me just thoroughly convinced that there was nothing that I could do and no way to escape.
Mm-hmm.
And and that was true a lot of the time, literally. And it's been so bizarre for me in that people, you say you're in a domestic violence situation or that your boyfriend's abusive, and people are just like, oh, it's not a big deal. And so you have to divulge a little more and divulge a little more. And eventually it's kind of like your entire pain is on display for someone's entertainment to convince them that you were abused enough for them to feel sympathy towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why, I tell people, I'm like, no, I was literally held captive and tortured by this person. And by tortured, I mean even up to the point of being waterboarded.
Wow.
And when I escaped in April 2020, I had to go through what do they call it? Deconditioning therapy. Like what they do for people who get out of cults.
Yeah. Yeah. Where you have to basically deprogram. And,
yes, deprogramming. That's the word I was looking for.
So
because I was so completely brainwashed that when I got out, I could not tell the difference between what were my thoughts and what were his thoughts. Mm-hmm. If something came up, somebody asked me my opinion, I didn't know if that was my opinion or his. Mm-hmm. And I had been trained and gaslit so hard to not believe my own thoughts in my own mind that I couldn't answer basic information questions about myself.
Yeah.
And he had me literally convinced that I had early onset dementia.
Jeez.
Because he just messed my brain up so much. And that level of trauma, which people don't realize, gives you brain damage.
Oh, really?
That level of trauma and PTSD gives you brain damage. They can see it on scans. Mm-hmm. Your brain is different. And to this day, my memory is not what it used to be. Mm-hmm. And it's embarrassing. I meet people and they know me or they remember me, and we had these talks, and I have to tell them anything before 2020, anything before 2019, I don't remember. Mm-hmm. So if I saw you pre-pandemic, I probably don't remember who you are. Mm. I don't remember. I have to have my friends tell me happy memories they have of us together because I don't remember them anymore. Mm-hmm. Like I am damaged because of what happened. Yeah. I am not the same. He robbed a lot from me.
Okay.
And part of that was my kinky identity and my sexual identity. Mm-hmm. Because there are things that I liked, like choking, that were used against me in a violent way.
Yeah.
That had never happened before.
Yeah.
And so now I have this level of fear connected to something that I used to love.
Sure.
And also, shame and worry. What if, lawyers come after me someday and they say, well, how can you say my client strangled you when you used to like to be choked?
Yeah, and that makes, that makes it more complicated.
Yeah, very complicated. And so, having your identity stripped from you, even when it's something like sex, it's still strange to have that piece of you missing.
Yeah. And
have that part of your personality, which was a large part of my personality, all of a sudden it's gone. So he was one of those people who anybody that I ever shot with was not, was ugly, disgusting. Anyone, all of my exes, ugly, disgusting. They were never the perfect level of man that he required them to be, which I thought as a straight man, he had a lot of opinions on what men should look like and be like. He's a very odd duck.
It seems like one of the least troublesome or not troublesome, but just one of the least, things about him that might have been, a little.
Yeah, but he would rag on it constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly bringing up that I was so disgusting because I shot with this person or, whatever, that everyone I was with before him was so gross and I was like tainted forever. And then
Except for him.
And anyone that he had been with before was fine.
Yeah. He was your salvation. He was, you will become the best person because I am so amazing.
Literally word for word.
Yeah,
word for word. Yeah. I was trash and he was going to make me better, but I had to do everything that he said all the time or else I was just going to stay the piece of shit that I was.
Yeah, that's obviously the guy's a textbook narcissist.
Yes.
Maybe, I don't know if he's borderline sociopathic, but
but he lived in his own dream world. That's why I know I'm not just saying he was a narcissist. He literally did not live in the same reality as regular people. He would tell me, after beating me up, I'm the hero.
Yeah.
I know that you think I'm the villain right now, but you'll see I'm the hero. I'm going to fix you. It's always
them that like they are acting in your best interest,
right.
Even though you're like, how does this help me?
Right.
You treating me like, when you look at it objectively, and because like when you deal with it seems like abusive because it seems like abuse and narcissism are like tied at the hip, because narcissistic people, I feel like it's always about them. They always say, well, I wouldn't do this to you if you didn't provoke me or you didn't start this,
which is never true.
No, it's not. No, it isn't. They want to do it to you,
right? Well, and I know this specifically because he would cite Christy Mack's abuser was a War Machine.
Yeah.
And he would say, well, at least I'm not War Machine. And he, because he thought what War Machine did was too far.
Almost killing her?
Yeah, that was abusive.
Yeah.
And so he used that to justify what he did. Because he didn't do that, that meant that he wasn't abusive, which shows that it wasn't just him losing control and being angry. He has a line, a boundary of abuse that he found acceptable that he wouldn't cross.
Yeah.
And that's true for most abusive men. It's not that they fly off the handle. They know exactly what level of abuse they find acceptable, and they stay within those boundaries. They have complete control over what they're doing, and they're not going to stop because it's getting the desired effect that they want.
Yeah. And considering that you have people that will set a bar, again, trying to basically, I don't even know if in their head, they might not even think they're being abusive because they think what they're doing is being helpful, or what they're doing, I'm saving this person. Right. And so I have to, so they'll thank me.
The ends justify the means. Yeah.
And I think to myself that I feel, I don't know this, and this is something I've come to realize, and I don't know if you would agree, but I feel like the right kind of person to be with is not somebody who is determined to fix you.
Right.
It's somebody, I feel like the right person to be with is somebody who inspires you to want to be the best version of yourself.
Right.
Like, and not, changing who you are is we've changed throughout our lives.
Yes.
So and that's just something that I think just naturally happens as we go through life. But anytime I think, because, I think men and women both do this, where they will be with somebody and they'll think, oh, you're good, but you could be better, and I'm going to make you better.
And I'm guilty of that myself. Yeah. I'm a fixer.
Yeah.
But I'm a people pleaser. I'm a fixer. I want to be a helper at all times. And so that's part of why people like me get chosen by people like him. Because in part, a lot of his bad behavior, I, did excuse as, well, okay, maybe if I do this different, if I fix me, then maybe he will be nicer, he will be better. If I do X, then, and it never worked. And I couldn't inspire him to change himself.
Yeah.
No matter how much, because I tried to logic with him and psychology him and, everything else. I really tried, because I tend to be pretty good at that.
Sure.
But he was better. He had that circular logic, and he could always circumvent everything that I said.
Yeah.
And So anyway, so going back, so he was very critical of people that I was with.
Mm-hmm.
And so after I left him, I assumed that I, would get back out there. I think I was even like on Tinder at the time.
Yeah.
And I would look at these men and it would be no. And that's when I started to realize, am I not attracted to these men or is he not attracted to them? But I can't think of anything outside of his
how he made you
opinion
feel.
on these men.
Yeah.
And so I just wasn't interested, couldn't deal with anybody. And then also it was the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was right in the middle of the pandemic or actually it was right at the beginning of the pandemic is when I got out.
Mm-hmm.
And domestic violence rates around the world had gone up.
Yeah.
And I remember when I left, he had gone to like go get drugs or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I called an Uber and put all my stuff in the Uber and left. And my Uber driver said, "You're the third girl I've picked up today that's doing a quick exit."
Yeah.
And it was like 3 p.m. And he had already picked up other women trying to escape their situation. I was like, wow, this is really, really bad.
Yeah.
And it did not make me feel better that it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
So I was having a lot of trouble finding people to be with, and you couldn't go out anyway. You couldn't meet people anyway.
Yeah.
And the guys who wanted to meet me, I was like, well, you probably have COVID because you're probably meeting other chicks too. So, so that was like 5 months where I wasn't with anybody.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
I thought I was losing my mind. And finally, I'd set up a shoot with my favorite studio, Alterotic.
Mm-hmm.
And the director sorry, I got lipstick on my
No, it's okay.
The director, Ivan, is somebody that I've known for a long time and worked with for a long time. And he gives me a lot of creative control. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, this is my, first scene back. Because we weren't allowed to film also during the pandemic.
Yeah, I know. That was everything.
A lot of people don't know that, but you weren't allowed to film during quarantine unless like you had somebody living with you that you could film with. But otherwise, your name was on a list. Like, people didn't want to shoot you if you were being unsafe.
Yeah.
So I finally got to do this shoot, and I was like, I'm losing my virginity again. I want candles. I want rose petals. I want the softest scene, no hardcore sex. I want it to be soft and easy and, like not a dude with like a super huge dick. Like, let's have a reasonable dick this time.
Yeah.
And the shoot was great. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, while longer. And then I think I had sex with somebody like at one of my dear friends. We had sex at like a Super Bowl party.
Okay.
Or their Super Bowl party.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm fixed. And then, it kept being where I would have these kind of moments and I would really be trying to get back and trying to go for it and trying to start filming again. Mm-hmm. But then something would happen that would kind of re-traumatize me again.
That kind of set you back?
Well, yeah, I'd film with somebody and then the girl who was dating him would be like, oh, actually, like he's been abusing me. And then that would make me messed up. Or I did a shoot and the guy's girlfriend was there and he was yelling at her the whole time. And I was like having a panic attack, like, triggered hard the entire time. And to where I couldn't film at all for like a month.
Yeah.
I couldn't let anyone touch me. And then I think the last time I had sex on film was probably like July 2021. Or something like that.
So 2 years.
Which people didn't know.
Yeah.
People didn't realize because I just kind of quietly skirted away. And the shoots that I had done, I've been shooting with a performer who I liked very much, but I just felt weird the whole time. I didn't feel very comfortable in my sexuality. I didn't have the same level of desire that I used to have. Mm. I was just very self-conscious the whole time. And I think still having that voice in my head of you're disgusting, the people you're with is disgusting, you know, all your choices are bad.
Yeah.
And
the echoes of the abuse.
Of that voice. And so then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just try to have sex off camera for a while.
Yeah.
And, try to sort myself out. And so I tell people, hey, I'm taking, like a little hiatus, but I'll be back.
Yeah.
And then it was like 3 months and I'm like, I'm taking a hiatus, but I'll be back. I'm taking a hiatus, I'll be back.
Yeah.
And so it got to I think like April of last year. And I had a great sexual experience because I realized, I should only have sex with my exes.
Okay.
Those are people I already know. They already know me. We're already comfortable.
Yeah.
So
You know all the moves.
Yeah.
You're
yeah, exactly. There's
We've
no
done this
guesswork.
dance.
I don't have to be self-conscious or nervous or freaked out.
Yeah.
You know, maybe this will help. And so I had sex with one of my exes at a fetish convention, and it was amazing. It was the most natural thing in the world. I wasn't nervous at all. I wasn't frightened. I was able to have an orgasm, which I had thought that was impossible. I really thought that I thought that it was gone. I thought that I was completely broken, and I literally cried. After which I know every man finds so hot when a girl cries after she comes, but I
really?
did, but I started crying because I was so relieved because I thought it was me and that it was broken forever and I'd never be able to come again, and so I was like, great, I'm totally healed, totally fine. And a few months later, I go on this sex vacation with a different ex of mine who's a long-term friend of mine. And I was wearing this outfit actually.
Oh wow! Okay.
And we went on this sex vacation. And it was not the same.
Really?
It was not the same experience. And I know part of it was I got back on birth control, and that really killed my drive because I had been like ravenous and completely killed my drive and did not feel the same. I was nervous the whole time. And I had wondered if it was because he was somebody that my ex would criticize a lot.
Man, that's tough.
And
because that guy, he didn't do it. Your ex didn't do anything wrong. It's not like he did something.
No,
he was just him.
Yeah.
And you've been friends with him for a while.
And I've been friends with him for almost a decade. You know, he's one of the people I'm most comfortable with in the world.
Yeah.
And, you know.
The programming just.
It was broken. The programming's broken. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just, wait a little while longer. And there'd be, I think there was one guy I had a crush on. And he's like the only person I've had a crush on since like 2020.
Yeah.
And I got excited and I went on a date with him and I'm sitting on his couch and he's like, do you want to make out? And I'm like, I don't even think I would know how. I don't even think I would remember how. And I was devastated because he's gorgeous and perfect and trauma-informed and knew what I had gone through and knew how to approach it in a sensitive way. And it would have been perfect if I could have gotten over that mental hurdle and done it. And, that was heartbreaking and, just really, really devastating for me. And so then my ex that I had good sex with, I was like, okay, maybe I'll try with him again. Well, he lives in a different state. And, flying, across multiple states to go have sex with a guy really hurts my pride. But I was willing to do it.
Extreme measures?
Extreme measures because at this point I'm panicked.
Yeah.
I'm literally panicked knowing it's already been 6 months or something. I'm like, it's getting up there. It might be a year. And we couldn't get the flights to work. I finally get a flight to work. He messages me, oh, I got a girlfriend.
Oh,
I was heartbroken. And I told him, I was like, are you sure? Are you sure? Because you're kind of my only hope.
How serious is this?
Yeah, you're kind of my only hope, buddy. So I was still crossing my fingers in April. Went back to the same convention. Thought maybe they broke up, and he didn't tell me. And he shows up with her, and I was like, dead inside. And it was at that point I was like, well, it's gonna be a year.
It's gonna be. This is it.
Because he was my last hope.
Yeah.
And and it had been so long because I guess I had skipped a part where I'd stopped filming sex on camera because I decided and I like I said, I kept being like, oh, I'm on hiatus, and I finally admitted to myself I'm not on hiatus.
Yeah.
Because maybe I shouldn't try and resolve these sexual issues so I can go back to work. Maybe I should resolve these sexual issues so I could live with myself and live a normal life. And so that's when I never publicly announced that I was retired.
Sure.
I just kind of quietly stopped trying to get booked for things and stopped telling people, oh yeah, just give me a couple months and I'll be back, or just wait, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
And so I sort of quietly retired, didn't tell anybody. And then at this point, I'm kind of like, yeah, like I might come back someday, but it's not looking real good at the time. So in between all of this happening, bringing it full circle back to your interest, I got these huge knockers.
Yep. And now we're at
Yeah, and now we're at the huge knockers, and because it's all connected. I got these September, I think, 2021, and I thought these are gonna fix all of my problems.
Yeah.
Having big old boobies is gonna, it's gonna make me sexual again. It's gonna make me want to be on film. I can start filming more of the things that I want to film, and it'll solve all my problems. Apparently, that did not happen because there is other trauma, other things I need to work through.
Sure.
And
do you regret getting them done?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I love having boobs.
Okay.
It just didn't. So one of the reasons. Okay, so go further back. You're gonna have to cut out so much because
No, it's fine. Just keep going.
There's just
good.
so much.
Good.
So I think the spring of 2021, my life situation changed because I was dealing with the fallout from my breakup in 2020.
Yeah.
And still trying to deal with that trauma. It was still really fresh. I was still in a really rough place.
Yeah.
And just not coping well, even though I was trying desperately in therapy, reading every self-help book I could find, in support groups, like really, really trying. But, the person I was living with was like, I can't handle this. And also this fear that like he might come and break into the house at any time, even though I had a restraining order, I had taken him to court, but you just don't know with a person that unhinged. And he had always told me if I did anything against him, he was going to break into my house and hurt me and hurt my dog and, everything. So, there was still that level of fear. And so they were like, we can't deal with this anymore. You have to leave. So I'm trying to figure out a place to live. I've never, lived on my own. And I go out to dinner with a producer friend of mine who I had worked for years and years ago. And he saw that as an opportunity to take advantage of me.
Yeah.
He knew my whole story because I had drunkenly blubbered it. And we went to dinner with a group of friends, and he would talk a lot about how he was sober, but making sure that I finished my drinks the whole time. And when I was sufficiently basically unconscious, ended up raping me in the bed, that I would end up being my room for the next 6 months.
Wow.
Because thankfully another friend of ours was generous enough to let me live with them. But I then had to sleep in the bed that I had been sexually assaulted in.
Yeah.
And it was after that point that I really gave up. I did not want anyone to look at me, let alone touch me, let alone anything.
Yeah.
And that's when I started gaining a bunch of weight. And stopped posting any sort of pictures, stopped shooting any sort of anything. That's what really stopped my shooting on camera.
Yeah.
And even just trying. I just could not. After that happened, and he made sure to make it really fucked up.
Yeah.
It was really, really sick. And so it's like trauma on top of trauma.
Yeah.
I was abused by this person. I lost my home. And then was sexually assaulted in what would be my new home.
Yeah.
And it just, at that point, I really gave up because I was like, I'm putting in so much work to get better. And this is my reward.
Yeah.
Is that I'm homeless and being assaulted by someone who I thought was my friend.
Yeah.
And so, it really, really messed me up, but that was part of, I'd lost my confidence. So I thought maybe getting my new boobs would help my confidence and bring me back. Cause like I said, I'm trying everything and anything I can possibly think of to to get past all of these hurdles. And, you know, and for a long time, the sex thing was on the low side of the scale.
Sure.
Now that I've healed a lot of other things, it's now a much higher priority.
Yeah.
And so I was going to explain to you a little bit. We had talked about why getting new boobs is so important in porn for me. So I'm open about it. I'm 34. I'm going to be 35. But in the porn industry, whether or not you're a teen or a MILF is less based on age and more kind of based on your body type.
Yeah.
Because I could be 24 years old and have huge knockers and be playing a 27-year-old's mom. Or, you know, as long as you have that MILF body, then you're a MILF. And if you have a teen body, then you play a teen. And so I was in my 30s competing with real teenagers for teenage roles and still being hired to be, you know, stepdaughter and all of that stuff. And I just was getting kind of sick of being, the little girl still as a 30-year-old
You're
person.
like, I think I'm beyond this.
I was beyond it. And in order to be the right type of body type, I had to be very, very skinny.
Yeah.
And I'm not a naturally skinny person. But, you know, I don't want my stomach sticking out further than my boobs, so I had to be rail thin. And it was hard, and I was always starving.
Yeah.
And so I used to say all the time, when I get new boobs, I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be able to, like, have more weight on me and a weight that feels comfortable.
Yeah.
And I had, you know, way gone over that weight when I was, like, extremely, extremely depressed in 2021 after my sexual assault. But I've managed to get a lot of that off. I go to the gym a lot now. I have a personal trainer now. You know, I'm working, guys, I'm working on everything that I possibly can. I swear to you, because the healing is important.
Yeah.
If I know that if I don't fix this, then I'm going to end up in the same situation I was in before, because I've seen that happen to
people
girls
regress.
so much. There are girls that I can't talk to anymore, because I'm like, I can't let you influence my thinking. I don't want to get that idea in my head that it would be okay to go back.
Yeah.
I can't let myself get there, because I won't survive a second time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to get this MILF body so that I could take on the more mature roles and have a more healthy, normal body type and be able to not be starving constantly, because I spent so much of my life starving. I'm like, I'm hungry, damn it. I've been through enough. I want to eat.
Eating's a pleasure.
Yeah, like, I want those pleasures in life, because I don't have the other kind.
Well, and you know that they've done studies that show that eating creates the same sort of, you know, mechanism in your brain that sex does. It gives you that same kind of pleasure. But the difference is it's like food. You have to eat food.
Yes.
Like you had to survive.
Right.
You know.
Well, and if you would ask me a year ago, I would have said, I have to have sex to survive.
Yeah, and some people say that too. But logic, like you want to go base.
Right.
Like food is you will not die of celibacy.
Right.
Like
apparently not.
I don't think so.
I'm living proof.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I mean, maybe somebody can disavow me of that notion, but I understand. Like, but you go so many like hunger strikes are legit things,
right?
Where people, like when Gandhi did it, or other people have done it in history.
It's extreme. Yeah.
Where going on a sex strike probably doesn't have as much of an effect on people on being like, okay. You're going to, all right, fine.
I don't know. If you put the word out there, I feel like many people would tell you that they're upset that they can't have sex with me.
Oh, I am sure of that.
Riots have almost happened, y'all.
Only Santa Claus might have a longer list of people compared to the list of people that are upset they can't have sex with you. But yeah, no, and so with besides the casting thing, did you ever think about getting bigger boobs before? I
had thought about it when I was like younger, because I grew up in the 90s, and in the 90s and early 2000s, the like Pam Anderson body type was still the standard. You got the big fake knockers, and you're very, very thin and
platinum blonde,
and the bimbo aesthetic. And I railed against it for a long time. And, so I wanted to get them. And then I was like, no, I'm an alternative goth chick and the world's different now. And Suicide Girls was becoming a thing. And I realized for the first time, oh my gosh, people who don't have huge boobs can be beautiful and people will pay to see them. What?
Yeah.
So that it changed my life. And then I'd be like, man, but I really want clothes to fit. Like clothes are made for people with boobs and I don't have any, and I would really like to be able to wear something and have cleavage and it looked normal, and I got big hips, and so it'd be, well, it fits down here but I got a big gap up here, and I used to
have a little more of a Coke bottle kind of like that Marilyn Monroe type figure. And
all the other women in my family are hourglass shape except me. I'm the pear of the family. Not anymore. And so I was on and off for years, and I resented the pressure, that people wanted me to have them. Mm-hmm. But I was finally like, every girl that I talked to, because being in porn, I meet a lot of girls that got fake boobs, and every single girl said, I do not regret it. The only thing I regret is that I didn't go bigger.
Or didn't do it sooner.
And so I was like, you know what? Like, I am not getting any younger, and I'm not going out, and not going out saves a lot of money. So, over quarantine, I saved up a lot of money.
Your boob fund started?
Oh, my boob fund. I paid for these boobs myself.
There you go.
But then that was the irony, is that then I got the biggest implants.
That
I could.
Saline, silicone?
I got cohesive silicone gummies. So I paid extra for the squishy ones. Yeah. I got the gummy bear implants. I wanted to make sure I got the best ones that I could possibly get.
Yeah.
And the biggest ones, I told him, just fit as much as you can fit in there, because I don't want to do it again, because I never had surgery before. I was terrified.
Yeah.
But so I wanted the most bang for my buck, and he sure did.
The most boob for your buck.
Yeah. And I woke up and I was like, I regret it immediately. And I went under the muscle. It hurt so bad. I was like, oh my gosh. And, and you can't use your arms for a really long time.
Yeah, because you're moving, because the muscles in your
muscles are all torn up. So I was like, oh, yeah. So, but of course, now that it's been a while, I'm like, yeah, I'm totally gonna get bigger ones. Like, duh, I'm obviously gonna get bigger ones. But I wish that they could like put me in stasis, so like I can just come out in like 6 months and be like,
they're good.
better.
You don't want to do the recovery. Yeah,
I don't want to do the recovery again. It was so brutal. But I would love to go up to 800s. That would be the dream. I love the way 800s look on everyone I've ever seen them on. So I think I would love to go bigger, just so the boob fans are not worried. I'm not staying. I'm like staying this small, even though they're huge now.
Yeah.
I think in the E cup range.
Okay.
Right now. So yeah, like they're big honking boobs, but in my mind, I'm like,
they could be bigger.
Yeah, they could be bigger. But I also, I'm in the bimbo community. I'm hanging with chicks who got 1,000+ implants. So to me, I'm like, what, these little things?
Yeah,
what?
You're like, that's you're like, these are good for beginners.
Yeah,
but
my petite boobies.
I want to up my game.
Because since I never had boobs, I've always been obsessed with huge boobs.
Maybe that's my problem too.
Yeah, see, you don't have any. I'm obsessed with boobs. And one of the greatest things about getting implants is when you talk about it, other women who have implants will be like, oh, well, feel mine.
Yeah.
So the year leading up to me getting implants, I squeezed so many boobies. Like all your favorite porn stars who have implants, I touched their boobies.
It was all for research.
All in
the name of science and medicine.
Absolutely. Yeah. Completely above the board.
Oh, yeah. No. Nothing salacious about it.
Absolutely not.
Not at all.
Well, yeah. So no, I love having huge boobs. I will say they didn't turn out exactly the way I wanted.
Okay.
And people are going to laugh at me. It's the most ridiculous problem. I think that they look too natural.
Really?
I wanted them to be faker.
You want them to look like they're bolted.
Maybe not even just bolt-ons, but like the most perfect, unrealistic boob,
like super
possible. Super round, super high, nip right at what they say, like 16 inches or whatever, like the perfect, I wanted everything to be, to where people would look at those and be like, those cannot be real.
They're not even questioning.
Yeah, not even questioning. And I will, have people who look at them, and even though they have scars, people will be like, are your boobs natural? And I'll be like, no, because it's like, I paid so much money for these. I wanted people to know that I paid so much money for them. And the extreme irony is, I paid the money for them. And then I was like, well, I paid for these by myself. And so no one gets to look at them.
But you.
These are my boobs. No one gets to look at it. So I have never filmed a thing with these boobs. Even I've been, because even though I don't do on-camera sex, I do on-camera porn acting still.
Oh, like non-sexual roles and scenes?
Yeah, I do non-sexual porn acting.
Okay.
Mostly comedic acting. My porn career somehow led to a comedic acting career. I just count it as a blessing. I don't know how it happened.
Okay.
And sometimes they'll, want me to get a boob out, or I'll do like a bondage shoot and they'll want me to get my boob. And I'm like, nope. Nobody gets to look at them. These are my secret special boobs.
Yeah.
Only on OnlyFans do I have pictures of my boobs. They're ultra secret, top secret boobs. So it's like any guy who does get to look at my boobs, I'm like, you're one of the
special club.
You're the chosen one.
Yeah,
you're one of the special few.
Yeah.
But I always tell people I might make my grand MILF return sometime.
Sure.
If somebody makes me an offer I can't refuse.
Well, and also once you get, if you're hopefully you're able to get to that point where you are healed enough in yourself, and because that will always be there. I imagine that because there are people in the industry that I know have taken long breaks,
right?
Years and years, and then they can reemerge.
And contrary to popular belief, you don't age out.
No, you don't.
That's why the MILF genre is there.
Exists.
The GILF genre is there. I could come back in my 80s and there would still be a job for me.
Yeah.
So I was never really worried about that. I think there's a little bit of worry about losing your relevance and losing connections you had because people can't use you for sex or work anymore.
Yeah.
And so what use are you now?
Yeah, and that drops off.
Yeah, and that is something to struggle with, to lose that kind of online, relevancy that I might have had before. But the peace means a lot.
Your own happiness, your own mental health, everything, all of that is way more important. I mean, what it seems like what you were when you were doing, porn and doing sex work at the time, it was a natural extension of who you were. Yeah. So it made
very healing.
Yeah, it made sense. It was enjoyable. It was something that you took a lot of. It sounds like you took a lot of personal gratification and satisfaction from.
Absolutely.
But then once it stopped being that for you, then it becomes okay. This isn't. I need to figure this out because now you're doing something that is almost working against you.
Right. And trying to gear my healing towards going back to work wasn't helpful.
Yeah.
Because doing anything for the sake of work in our capitalist society is kind of bad for your mental health.
Yeah.
And so I had to take a step back and be like, okay, getting better is going to be my job for now.
Yeah.
Until I can recover from what happened, I have no business trying to work on doing these other things.
And I can't imagine you'd be able to even perform the way that you would want to perform.
Right.
Well,
my biggest fear was always that something would happen on set and I would get triggered and I would have a PTSD episode.
Yeah.
And I would ruin everyone's day.
Yeah.
Because it's not their fault and and it's embarrassing, to freak out on somebody like that. If I burst out crying or something and I ruin everyone's day, maybe they have to cancel the shoot. That, the idea that might happen was more preventative than the fact that I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I did shoots and I was totally fine.
Yeah.
There were a couple times where, somebody would put their hand on my throat, because they didn't know.
Sure.
And I would, tense up, but I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm good, and, they weren't squeezing or anything. They were just, in the area. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm good. But it was the idea, what if I did freak out? And then I ruined the whole shoot, ruined everyone's day. It just wasn't worth it for me because I know that struggle from working on set. I know that struggle. I don't want to be a burden to other people that way.
Yeah.
So, I really made my focus, especially this year in particular. Like I said, I stopped drinking, which I had used to essentially calm my nervous system, because when you're in that scenario and you come out of that scenario, you're in high alert all the time. There is no safety zone for you. Your brain thinks that you are in danger, fight or flight, all the time.
Yeah.
And I needed, I was numbing that with alcohol, and it would work temporarily, but I was very depressed. And it got to the point where in almost any scenario, I was looking, how can I get alcohol? How can I bring alcohol into this situation? When can I get it? Where can I get it? Do I have to hide it? I couldn't I wasn't able to function properly.
Yeah.
And so I was able to give that up this year, which I thought would be impossible. And it turned out it wasn't. But I had a really good program. I used what's called the This Naked Mind method, or the Annie Grace method.
Okay.
And basically what she helps you do is you just like science your brain so hard about what alcohol does, why you even want to drink, why you think you should drink, that you're so self-aware you don't want to.
Yeah.
And so kind of the like, phrase that you hear a lot with her program is, I can drink as much as I want to, I just don't want to.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, I can't drink, I'm just like, I don't even think about it. It's not a part of my day.
Yeah.
I go out and I know that I'm going to be able to have fun without having a drink.
Yeah.
I am alone at home. I know that I'm going to be fine without having a drink, to the point I'm not obsessed with, oh, I can't have it. I just don't think about it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I highly recommend that, especially if people have issues with AA.
Yeah.
Because it's not for everybody. It's not a one size fits all.
No.
Try it out. She's got an app now, the This Naked Mind app.
Yeah.
It makes everything very accessible. It's all free. And then I use the Try Dry app, which is like a sobriety tracker. And it tracks all the days that you've been sober in a year instead of just the streak that you're on. Because I know you can get like obsessed with, like,
I got so many days.
I got so many days. And they're like, yeah, okay, maybe you messed up, but you've been sober 170 days this year. Like, that's amazing. And so it gives you that hope, and it keeps you from going on a spiral, because you don't feel like a complete failure if you do mess up.
Yeah.
And so that's been a huge change in my life, almost even more than being celibate, being sober. But I think those both
they've gone hand in hand
and combined into, like I said, being in almost a Zen state where my mental health has been worlds better.
Yeah.
And I can look back on, like the Facebook has memories and stuff now. And I can look back on my post from years past, and I was so angry and I was so depressed.
Yeah.
And I look back and I'm like, who's that girl? Who is that? Man, she's mad, know, and being like, oh, cool. Like, my mindset has changed, and all the work that I've put into recovery is working.
Yeah.
And now I'm better able to trust myself to make, different decisions, or, do this or that. I'm still not dating.
Yeah.
I probably won't for a very long time, but
you're building a foundation.
I'm building a foundation
of your rebirth, or whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. And so coming up, so this year I've also delved a lot in spirituality, and being a reverend, that was something that was normal for me. I went to school for philosophy and religious studies.
Yeah.
That's, what I was passionate about for years, but it had dropped off and I had other priorities. And so I took this time to kind of reconnect with that and explore alternative, because I'm not, like strictly a Christian.
Yeah.
I consider myself to be more Unitarian.
Okay.
I think that there's validity in a lot of ancient religions. And my focus in school was comparative mythology, comparative religion. So how is every religion the same?
Yeah.
And so I can't be like, oh, all religions are the same, but mine's number one.
Yeah.
So I'm open. And so this year I took the chance to explore, just different kinds of spirituality that I hadn't before. And so I think that also has helped with the more Zen feeling in that I am, tapping into my spiritual side more than I had in previous years.
Okay.
And looking into even things like sex magic.
Oh.
Because like I said.
Damn, I wish we had more time. We can get into that.
I'm like, I don't know if it'll help. I don't know if any of it's real.
Yeah.
But if it is.
Hey.
I would like to try it out.
A reverend of sex magic.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That's a business card that hands out itself.
Exactly. And for the anniversary, I booked myself a tantric massage.
Okay.
I have a dear friend who's a practitioner and trauma informed and been doing this for a very, very long time. And so it's all like a legal thing.
Yeah.
It's that I'm using this as a step to get used to intimate touch.
Yeah.
And, touch that's, more sensual, but safe.
Sure.
And, I think that that's probably a step that I should have taken, a long time ago, years ago, and it might have helped. But
you're doing it now. So
I was afraid.
Yeah.
And so now, I'm trying that out, seeing how that works, getting my body used to being touched by another person again. And I'm taking supplements, all the horny supplements that you can find on the internet. I'm trying to take those to try and increase my drive.
Your libido.
My libido. Because what I found is a lot of the times I'll be very, very worked up. Mm-hmm. Until I get in a situation with another person, then I feel nothing.
Then it goes, okay.
It goes completely away. And so I'm trying to make it to where I'm so horny, I just can't even contain the sexual energy that's in my body. And I just have to like ravish somebody.
Yeah.
Because that's what I miss. Because I was a primal player. Well, the kinky people in the world will know what that means.
Yeah. And,
really doing whatever I can to take these steps in the later half of this year to try, I've tried to work through these things and I've made it to this point and I've hit this 1-year milestone that I never thought would happen. Let's get serious about this. And now that I'm in a good place and I feel in a safe place and I feel, my nervous system is more regulated than it's been in years. Yeah. Now let's move forward with this next phase of healing.
Well, and I because we gotta wrap it up. Yep. But I would really love, like maybe in 6 months, maybe another whatever. I'd love to have you back to kind of give an update if you wanted to come back at some point.
Oh, I would love that. That would be amazing.
To be able to just discuss, because I think that a lot of people will be interested to see your progress, to see how you're doing. So I really hope to have you back at some point.
I would love that, because the thing I want most of all, and the main reason why I'm sharing this story, is I want to give other people hope. Yeah. Because unfortunately, way too many people have been in the situations that I've been in. Yeah. In the porn industry, but outside. Let's get real.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Let's get real. And I want them to have an example of, here's somebody who did the work and it worked. And so I can keep doing this, and I can move forward with this, and I can put in the work more than I thought that I ever could. Yeah. And it's going to be worth it. Yeah. Because the alternative is so bad. The time when I gave up was so much worse. Yeah. Than all the bullshit that I've done to try and get better. Yeah. So I hope that everybody out there, keep going, please. Yeah. Put in the work, do the healing. It's so worth it.
Well, Arielle, I really appreciate the fact that you came on the show. The fact that you shared so much. It really humbled me, because I thank you so much for trusting me, trusting the show and coming on. So I really appreciate that, and I'm really happy to hear that amidst all the stuff that you've been going through, that you're sounds like you're on a path to getting better.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I even though it was kind of heavy, I did have a lot of fun.
Me too. And I really hope that we'll be able to talk again and in however long. So, but you're more than welcome back on the show anytime.
Thank you so much.
All right.